Welcome to Practical Witch Talk. Thank you for joining me. I'm Friday Gladheart, your host, and this has been the most terrifying Halloween season I've experienced in the last half a century. And I know I'm not alone. You might be afraid because of who you love, where your family comes from, or the spirituality that you hold in your heart. But if your candidate won, congratulations. Also, remember that half of the country is afraid and grieving right now, and we need to embrace our compassion for one another. As I speak, I'm still processing my own feelings. So if I say something that triggers you or that you don't agree with, please forgive me. I am also grieving. If you faced prejudice and marginalization, you're now at even more risk. But there's something to consider. It's like chickens in a yard. If you've ever had chickens, you know that when you bring in anything that's different or anything new, they'll pick it apart. Any chicken, especially if you have all of one breed, any that shows a discrepancy in their feathers or the way they look, they'll get picked on until sometimes they're unalived. And it's very similar to the church ladies and, well, everyone, all the churchgoers, especially down here in the South, where they start trying to figure out who's more Christian within their own ranks. So basically, when people run out of external targets to point their fingers at, they find internal scapegoats and start fighting with each other. So there's a lot of things that this provides kind of a safety net for us. Trying to make a Christian nation would be about as successful as trying to unite Catholics and Methodists, Lutherans, Baptists, Unitarians, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons. Can you imagine them all agreeing on more than just the basics long enough to make any lasting laws? And a lot of the basics that we all agree on, no matter what our religious creed, are going to be just common values that most of us share. There are obviously some very oppressive things that are probably going to come about, and we have the ability to fight those. You can't win every battle. We're in here for the long haul. Let's talk about learning some hard lessons and staying really open. It's okay. I made the mistake of taking back a toxic ex once too. And sometimes it just takes us a while to learn our lesson. Remember, closing off right now will not keep you from getting hurt again. It's only going to make each day less colorful, less bright, more dull, more lackluster. And it's just not time to shut down and turtle up. I know it's a tempting thing when you're facing fight or flight. But let's talk about the demon of fear and how it has been manipulated by both internal and external leaders from Russia and from China and from within our own ranks. The fear has been magnified and manipulated into hate. But America didn't choose hate. Americans were just afraid. We're like frightened children, and if you've ever backed a raccoon into a corner like I have, they get pretty feisty, and they'll start lashing out, even at other raccoons. So now it might feel tempting to retreat back into the closet, to hide parts of yourself out of fear. But fear can only dissipate in light. Hiding your witchcraft, your queerness, your authentic self, whatever's been demonized, it only adds power to the fear disease. Oppressors want you to be afraid. They want you to disappear, to stop causing them fear, which they in turn turn into hate. They hope you'll be demure, that you'll hide yourself. But fear is a hungry demon. And just like those chickens and the gossips in the church, once they run out of external scapegoats, they'll turn on each other. This is not the way that we heal, not the way that we progress or move forward. So let's talk about empowering yourself. To alleviate your fears, one of the big things, especially after you've taken a moment to process your grief, but to alleviate fears, it helps to take action. First, do the practical, bare bones basics. Prepare short and long-term plans, and then know that you don't have control of everything, that you've done what you can, and let the rest go. Next, delve into your witchcraft for self-healing and protection and power. Part of your preparation on the practical aspect should be what I call a broom out bag. It's like a bug out bag. It has emergency supplies that usually include, flashlights, power banks, water filters, emergency blankets, first aid kits, and definitely stash some cash in there. But witches often will add a little bit of salt, a tarot deck, and especially essential oils chosen for both their medicinal and magical properties. This is really helpful because you can't store herbs for a long time. Essential oils have a much longer shelf life, and they're much more concentrated, lighter, more portable, and more versatile. Pick some that work as both like insect repellents, decongestants, anti-inflammatories, antibacterial, or other remedies that you might need. Also, make sure you've got your prescriptions and whatnot in your bug out bag and what I call your broom out bag. But after you've prepped, then let it go. And the next step, I'm going to quote Elizabeth Warren, whether you agree or not. She said something really interesting. The far right wants you to feel powerless. So again, you might be tempted to turtle up, to retreat, but it's time to reach out and connect with your support system, or build one if you don't have one. Rally together, find your coven, find like-minded people, join community events and discussion groups, volunteer in your community, get out there, let yourself be seen. It's easy for people to demonize you when they don't see you. When they don't know you as a friend, as a relative, as a community member, as an employee, as an employer, you have to stay visible. Now, if this is going to jeopardize your safety, obviously forget everything I just said about staying visible. But consider honestly whether you're acting out of fight or flight, or out of fear and running and hiding, or if you are legitimately in serious danger that you can't mitigate in other ways on a practical basis. Everybody's got their own perspective of this, and I respect any of your decisions. I'm not going to judge anyone for what they need to do to stay safe. But for me, I'm going to stay visible. I don't have children. I'm towards the end of my life. I want to live in the moment and enjoy every moment. And it took me half of my life to come out of my broom closet. And I have no intention of going back into the darkness. But witchcraft historically and today is all about empowering yourself when you feel powerless. That's one of the main reasons that the oppressed often turn to magic and witchcraft as a way of feeling empowered. You might feel quite powerless right now, but reach into yourself for that power. Don't be trapped by fight or flight. Connect with your community. And remember this, you're not alone. Almost half of the country is with you, and the other half are your neighbors and people in your community. A big part of witchcraft for me is living in harmony with your surroundings, and although that is not always easy, I do try to be present and let myself be known by friend and foe, because it prevents them from being able to target you as a blanket scapegoat. They can see you, they know your history. It's really hard to demonize you and dehumanize you when you are right up in their face, handing them brownies, helping with their kids. So let's get a little perspective. Remember, you're not alone. You can't change or control what the government or an elected official will do, so you do what you can. Prepare, let go, embrace your internal power, connect with your community, and keep your perspective. Resist that impulse to shut down or hide, because we're all tiny specks in a vast universe. We're just stardust. That's where we started, and that's where we end up. Maybe you see that the emperor has no clothes, while half of your voting neighbors believe he's wearing the finest garments. Shutting down won't wake them up. It'll only feed the fantasy. Blessed be.